Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to your next online video lesson with me, Teacher Morgan. It is Unit 5, lesson number 8. Let's go full screen. Let's get started. Okay, today we're still telling the time. We're just going to go over what we went over in the last video. More practice of the question. Let me have some water. Okay. Unit 5, Lesson 8. Okay, and again, Unit 5 is all about time. What is the time? Okay, 5 times table. You know your 5 times table. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. That is what you need to know. That will help you with Unit 5. Okay, what is the time? What is the time? You say it's, then the hour, and then the minutes. That's all you need. 2 numbers, the hour, and then the minutes. 2 numbers. That's all we need to know. Okay, how do we know the hours? The hours are the numbers on the clock, and there are 12. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. These are your hours. Okay, then the minutes, there are 60 minutes. 60. And it's the numbers on the clock times 5. So it's 1 times 5 is 5, 2 times 5 is 10, 3 times 5 15, 4 times 5 20. It is your 5 times table, like we did at the start. Okay. Remember, the hours is the small hand and the minutes is the big hand. Okay. 2 numbers, the hours and the minutes. Okay, let's do our clock. So how do we do it? Here's the clock again. We look at the hours with the small hand, the minutes with the big hand. Okay, first off, that small hand, look at here. Small hand is pointing at 10, so the hour is 10. Easy peasy. Then the big hand, we need to look at the big hand for the minutes. The minutes is pointing at 2, but with the minutes you need to times by 5. 2 times 5 is 10. So the time is 10, 10. Easy peasy, just like that. Okay, small hand, then big hand times 5. Okay, now why do we times by 5? It's because all these little numbers are your minutes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get to 1, you're at 5 minutes, then 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. By the time you get to 2, you're at 10 minutes. 7 t. Okay, so remember. This is all you need to remember. This is how you read a clock. You look at the small hand and then you look at the big hand. Easy peasy. Okay, now let's look at our thing. And remember, with this clock, the time is 2 and it's 2:50 because the big hand is pointing at 10. Why is that? It's because all of this is still 2 o'clock. So if we look at the small hand, it's still 2 o'clock. It's nearly 3, but it's not yet 3. It's still 2. Okay, then that's 3, then there's 4, and then 5. Okay, and also remember this. What is the time? Small hand is pointing at 1, so that's 1. Big hand is pointing up at 12. If the big hand is pointing up at 12, then that is 0 minutes. And if it's 0 minutes, you say o'clock. Remember, if it's 0 minutes, big hand pointing up at 12, it's o'clock. It's just the hour and then o'clock. Okay. Now, let's go over our question, our key question for Unit 5. What time do you? Okay. What time do you? Then it's a verb. What time do you eat? What time do you sleep? What time do you run? What time do you play? What time do you do homework? What time do you aragadai? Okay, but we have 6 verbs that you need to remember for Unit 5. We have what time do you get up? In the morning, you get up. What time do you go to bed? What time do you go to bed? Then we have the eat. What time do you eat breakfast? What time do you eat lunch? What time do you eat dinner? And the last one, what time do you go to school? Okay, so these are your sentences. These are your questions. Okay, what time do you? But also remember, we can change it to what time does with an ES, does he? What time does he get up? What time does he go to school? What time does he eat breakfast? Okay, now let's practice. So what time do you get up? Here's the picture. So answer, you changes to I. Then we take the verb, I what? I get up. And then we get the small word at. I get up at. I get up at. Then we look at the time. What time? I get up at 6:20. I get up at 6:20. Okay, next one. Okay, what time do you eat breakfast? What time do you eat breakfast? Okay, here's the picture. First, we take you, brings it down. You changes to I what? Then we take the verb. Let's take the verb. I eat breakfast. I eat breakfast. I eat breakfast. Then the small word. I eat breakfast at. I eat breakfast at. I eat breakfast at. Let's look at the time. I eat breakfast at 7:10. I eat breakfast at 7:10. I eat breakfast at 7:10. Okay, next one. Okay, now remember, if it's he or she, you don't say do, you say does. What time does he eat lunch? What time does he eat lunch? What time does he eat lunch? So first we take the pronoun. Let's take the pronoun. He, give it a capital H. Then he what? Let's get the verb. Then we take down the verb. He eats lunch. Remember the S. Remember the S. He eats lunch. Then the small word. He eats lunch at. He eats lunch at. He eats lunch at. He eats lunch at what time? 11 o'clock. He eats lunch at 11 o'clock. Okay. And remember to add an S. If it's he or she, you add an S. Okay, one more. This time it's not he, it is she. So it's does. What time does she eat dinner? What time does she eat dinner? Okay, first we take the pronoun. Let's take the pronoun. She, give it a capital S. She what? Then let's take the verb. Let's take the verb. She eats dinner. Remember to add an S. Remember the S. He or she, you add an S. She eats dinner. Then the small word. She eats dinner at. She eats dinner at what time? What time? 6:20. 6:20. She eats dinner at 6:20. Okay, and remember to add an S if it's he or she. Okay, and remember, sometimes you don't add S, sometimes you add ES if the word ends in any of these letters. So here are some verbs. So I fix, he fixes. I watch, he watches. I push, he pushes. I go, she goes. I punch, he punches. I mix, she mixes. Okay, whoops. So remember, if the verb ends in any of these letters, then you add ES if it's he or she. Okay. Question review. Okay, what time do you verb? I verb object at time. Okay, what time do you verb? I verb object at time. So what time do you go to school? I go to school at time. What time does he verb? What time does he get up? He gets up at 9 o'clock. What time does she eat dinner? What time does she eat dinner? She eats dinner at 6 o'clock. Okay, and remember, if it's he or she, you say does, not do. Okay, and remember, if it's he or she, you have to add S to the verb. Okay, let's see if you remember, because it's now quiz time. It's quiz time, so you know what to do. Get your piece of paper, your pen or your pencil, and then can you write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to have a drink of water. Lovely water. Okay, I hope you're ready. If you're not ready, you can pause the video, but it's time. Number 1, I'm going to give you 1 minute. You have 1 minute to answer. Okay, look at the time and let's go. Question: what time do you get up? What time do you get up? And play. You have 1 minute to write your answer. What time do you get up? Okay, remember, first word, we take down the pronoun. We take down the pronoun, and you changes to, okay. Then the next part, then you take the verb. I what? Take down the verb. Then you do the small word. Then it's the small word. And then it is the time. Then we get the time. So you have to look at the clock. And remember, you go for the hour with the small hand. And then you get the big hand for the minutes. And the minutes you need times by 5. Okay, about 10 seconds to go. And boom. Okay, and pause. Okay, what time do you get up? The answer, I what? I get up then at, I get up at 7:30. I get up at 7:30. Give yourself a tick if you wrote I get up at 7:30. Okay, number 2, look at the picture, look at the clock. The question, what time do you go to school? What time do you go to school? Okay, you have 1 minute to write the answer. What time do you go to school? Okay, so remember, we start with the pronoun. We start with the pronoun. So you changes to, okay, then we take the verb. Then we take the verb, okay. Then we have the small word, okay. Then the time. Then what is the time? We have to learn. Small hand is pointing here. So what is the time? Is it 7 or is it 8 if it's here? And then the minutes. We look at the big hand. It's 9. So what is 9 times 5? That'll be you. It's okay if you just write the numbers. If you can't spell the numbers, that's okay. You can just write the numbers. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Okay, what is the time? What time do you go to school? You changes to I go to school. I go to school at 7:45. 7 is the hour. 7, then the minutes. 45. I go to school at 7:45. Okay, number 3. Okay, here we go. We got a boy, and here's the time. Question: what time do you eat lunch? What time do you eat lunch? You have 1 minute to write the answer. What time do you eat lunch? Lovely. Okay, now remember, first we start with the pronoun. So we get the pronoun. And you changes to. Okay, then we go on to the verb. Let's take down the verb. Okay, then we go, then the small word. Then you have to say the time. What is the time? So we look at the big hand for the hour. The hour is here, so is it 11 or is it 12? It's here. And then we have to look at the minutes. So let's look at the big hand. Is that 2? 2 times 5. What is 2 times 5? And that will tell you the minutes. Okay, 7 seconds to go. Okay, hope you're all finished. Boom. Okay, let's do it. So what time do you eat lunch? You changes to I. I what? I. Let's get the verb. I eat lunch. I eat lunch at. I eat lunch at 11:10. I eat lunch at 11:10. Okay, and that is your answer. Okay, next one, number 4. Let's look at it. Okay, this time it's not you. It's not what time do you. It's not you. It's what time does he eat breakfast? What time does he eat breakfast? Go. Okay. 1 minute. What time does he eat breakfast? Okay, so remember we just start with the pronoun. This time we take down the pronoun, and this time he doesn't change. No change. Just stays the same. So we take down the pronoun. Then we take down the verb. But remember, if it's he or she, you add an S. He or she, you add an S. So you have to add an S to the verb. So he eats breakfast. Then it's at, then the small word, at. And then we need the time. At what time? So the small hand is here. So what is the hour? And then the big hand is pointing at 6. So how many minutes if the big hand is pointing at 6? What is 6 times 5? Okay, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom. Okay, pause the video. Okay, what time does he eat breakfast? First, we take the pronoun. He stays the same. He to he. But we give it a capital H. He what? Let's take the verb. He eats breakfast. Remember to add an S. Because it's he. He eats breakfast at what time? At 6:30. The hour is 6. The minutes 30. He eats breakfast at 6:30. Okay, next one, number 5. Last question. What time does she go to bed? What time does she go to bed? Okay, you have 1 minute. This is question 5. Lovely, lovely water. Okay, how do we do this one? For the answer, we start with the pronoun. Let's take the pronoun down. Then we take the verb. And that's next. But remember, if it's he or she, you add an S. But is it an S? Because it ends in O. So maybe you don't add S. Maybe you add ES. Okay, so remember that. Then it's at. At what time? Well, the small hand tells you the hour. Then the big hand tells you the minutes. How many minutes? If the big hand is at 12, I don't know. But I'll tell you, if it's 0 minutes, you don't say 0 minutes, you say, okay, I've got to give you the answer. That was a hard one. Okay, what time does she go to bed? First we go she, let's take the pronoun, she. Then go to bed, let's take that down. Go, but because it's he or she, you have to add an S. But because it ends in an O, you add ES. She goes to bed. She goes to bed at 9 o'clock. Remember, if the big hand is pointing up at 12, you say o'clock. Okay. That is us all finished for today, guys. I hope you all did well in that test. Remember, big hand is minutes, small hand is hours. Time is hours and minutes. There are 12 hours on the clock. There are 60 minutes. Remember, if it's 0 minutes, which means the big hand is pointing at 12, then you say, oh, clock. Then here's your question. What time is it? It's hour minutes. Then what time do you verb? I verb at time. And then he or she, you add an S to the verb. So I eat, he eats. And I go, he goes. Because of the ES. Okay, guys, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. The next video is the spelling test. So look forward to that one. I'll see you there for the spelling test.